And we're back with another episode of I Heard You When You Said, the only podcast where you may get a dash of functional health, a smidge of mindset, a sprinkling of religious trauma,
Definitely a sprinkling.
and a smattering of, did they really just say that?
I'm so here for this. Do you know that all those measurements are actually used in old recipes?
A smattering?
Yeah, a smattering, a smidge, a titch, like a tinch, a sprinkle. Like those are traditionally units of measure when you're a really good baker or cook. Like you're like, oh, a teaspoon of this. No, it just needs a dash.
I believe
A
that's why
touch.
they say when you make things with love, that's really what they mean, because you love what you're doing and you love the people that you're baking it for, so you just already know what the measurements are.
Okay.
Made with love.
Speaking of love and making things, there is another loaf of sourdough about to go in the oven after we record this.
Did you get a picture this morning of something that was made with love for my wife?
I didn't get a picture from you this morning that was
That's
made
not my child.
No. Well,
both of them were made with love.
I didn't get a picture from your wife this morning.
She made banana bread, chocolate chip banana bread, out of these 3 bananas that were overripe, and just this morning was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, look at you. And I was like, send a picture to Stacy, and she took a picture of it. I thought I believed that she was going to send it to you. She might have taken a picture, set her phone down, and never actually sent it.
I mean, there's a baby involved and a 4-year-old.
So who do we have with us today for the first time and not the last time?
Oh my gosh, we have one of my favorite people on the podcast today, and there are not very many people that I will deem as my favorite. And if I had to go back to how long we'd actually known each other or been following each other or looking at each other's stories, it's likely 7 years, 8 years. Is that true?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So world, welcome Amy Brown.
Thank you.
Amy is going to share with us so many good things, but here's how we got here. Amy and I have very similar stories of adoption and trauma and how we navigated it. Now, Amy is an overachiever, and
which is part of the problem.
Amy is an overachiever, and I only adopted one child with reactive attachment disorder. Amy decided she wanted to double down, triple down on that, and just be like, if I could have one child with an attachment disorder, why not 2 or 3? You know, why not? So Amy and I are very kindred spirits. I won't even say it's a trauma bond because we're so past it now. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, we had very similar stories. And Amy, you share how you found me and how our relationship started, because Amy is a former client of mine who is now a friend. Amy, go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm excited to be here. I was thinking this morning about when I first noticed you, and I remember specifically, and I'm gonna butcher this and paraphrase it because I don't remember the exact words, but I've been following you, and you wrote a post that said something like, I'm gonna choose my own joy. I'm gonna choose for myself the things that make me light up. And I remember reading that, and I even copied it down in my journal and went back to it and thought, I'm allowed to do that. That just was like a really shifting moment for me. And then I continued to kind of watch you and follow your journey. And I remember it was a really hard time. I was, of course, doing a million things. And I thought, okay, I think I need Stacy in my life as a coach. So I think I DM'd you and said, I think I need you. And you reached out to me. So we've been following each other for a long time, and we had both written for the same Rad Advocates before. And I had read your story, but that was like a turning point where you said something that I went, oh, wait a minute. Like before, when you would share, like, I'm like, oh, I get that. Yeah, I've had that life. And not that you weren't inspiring before, but that like was a shift in me. Like, wait, I'm allowed to pick that. Life's been really hard. And it was like a declaration you made, and I kind of watched you live that out. I didn't follow that declaration until we started working together, but it was my first inkling of this is a different pivot for me that I need.
That it was possible.
Yeah.
In those early days, and I say early days of Instagram, before it was my professional job of writing, I was sharing my story mostly for me. And I still share my story mostly for me. And I even wrote something this morning, and is I look back on the story, my mindset perspective have shifted. And the more of the work you do of getting your story straight, more joy becomes on the table. And I remember really early on in our conversations that because our stories had so much challenge involved, not in our children, and I'd love for you to talk about how your story started, that even before adoption, just as in your childhood, is that when you're accustomed to pain and struggle, and it's been your baseline normal for the majority of your life, choosing joy feels egregious and like violence.
Right.
It's something that was not even celebrated or a possibility because suffering was celebrated.
Right.
And this is just what was done.
Right.
How well do you suffer? And there was a point that your life was
Right.
in danger and you suffered. So bring us back to even before the adoption story,
Right.
where joy wasn't on the table and where life or death was legitimately on the line.
Right. Right. Well, when I was little, the first thing that happened in my life was my sister died of leukemia when I was 3 and she was 5. And so I lived with grieving parents, which obviously they're going to grieve. They lost a child. And so I learned very quickly to quiet myself because my mom was sad. But the other thing I learned is that, rightly so, my mom was really freaked out whenever we had a cold, a bruise, anything. And she'd take us to the doctor. That makes sense. She had a child that had leukemia. I learned very quickly to have a very high tolerance for pain and not complain because I didn't want to stress her out. So I have a high tolerance for pain, and I thought that was like a good thing for years, not realizing what I was doing. Anyway, so as we went on my parents are Christians, we're Christians, they're both deceased now, but they got really involved in a faith healing church, and they didn't have a lot of money, and they lost a child, so it was kind of a prosperity gospel kind of situation. And I can have compassion for that because when you don't have a lot of money and you've lost a child, those promises sound very appealing. So I had a situation, and I want to say when I tell this story that I just tell this story like, oh, I had eggs for breakfast, and Stacy had to go, Amy, several times to me to make me understand this is a significant story. So what happened was, I was about 12 and my appendix ruptured. Now, I'm not sure they knew initially that my appendix had ruptured. I think they were thinking she's around the age of starting her period or whatever. Maybe that's what's going on. But I quickly became very sick and was in excruciating pain. And my parents, under the pressure of elders in the church, didn't take me to the hospital. Finally, after a couple days, my dad said, okay, forget this. I'm taking her. So by the time I got to the hospital, the doctor was saying, I don't even know if she's going to live through the surgery. I had such terrible infection, so much so that I had an open drain for months after I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I had to go back. I had a lot of trauma, physical trauma in my body from that experience. But I have very vivid memories of the pressure of my parents with the elders of the church. They needed to be praying that I would be healed, and my parents trying to figure out what to do. And, I'm pretty sick in all this. And so that decision affected my life in physical ways. One is infertility. I'm filled with scar tissue. So for me, my biological kids needed to be conceived through in vitro. And I knew that those were the physical pains, like adhesion pains and all that thing. But I didn't understand the emotional mindset pain or whatever that brought upon my life. Because when you're in a church like that, there's a lot of pressure on you to be healed because that means you're faithful. And if you're not healed, it's not necessarily God's fault. maybe I don't think this was said explicitly, but let's say implicitly, you didn't have enough faith. So the pressure on my family and on me to not be sick was really high. And I remember particularly going after I had been sick and was very like emaciated and sick. We had gone to a church service and my mom saying, you have to stand up. And I said, well, I can't. She said, like, people are looking at us. They expect you to be better. Like, so there's all that pressure on my 12-year-old self to think, okay, I must have been doing something wrong. I wasn't had enough faith in God, all that. So take all those years of, you know, implicitly knowing, like, I don't want to upset my parents because I don't want them to be worried. So I'm going to tamp down just normal everyday pain of a kid. You know, you get hurt, whatever. But also that just got ratcheted up with that experience. And then I just carried that into my life. I didn't believe that theology anymore, but I carried ignoring my body into my life. And that brought me to you.
And it did bring you to me. And it was one of the things that was our greatest challenge was how could we get you to recognize your body's signals? And that came down to a story. It came down to a mindset shift of,
right.
Am I hungry? What am I eating? And so I love that you share that part of the story because I believe it's really relevant for a lot of people. Maybe not that their story was in a church context, but they had pressure from their parent or something in their childhood to perform in a certain way. And it impacted the priority they made on themselves of one, getting their needs met, to what do I really want?
Right.
And am I capable of feeling something other than override and execute and allowing myself to be seen?
Right.
So tell me, because it's so interesting because we haven't had this conversation before. Very early, because we were together for what, about a year? Yeah. And we haven't talked for about a year. So this is a fun recap. When I first started to introduce the possibility, not the Instagram post of joy, but that you could feel and become aware of the sensations in your body, your hunger cues, that food wasn't bad. What were your thoughts in when I introduced something that was just such a foreign concept to you at the beginning?
Well, first of all, I want to back up and say that when I got to you, it was, I mean, I'm an athlete. I've run marathons, half marathons. I didn't look at my body. I didn't integrate my body with the rest of me. I just looked at it as a tool. And I didn't look at those parts of me with curiosity or compassion. So when my body wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, whether it was weight gain or whatever, you know, I was just like, make this tool work, right? So I was coming to you thinking, she's going to give me weights. And the first thing you had me do is make a cake and eat it.
It was one of the first things.
I have a list of Stacy-isms that made me mad. I wrote them down today so I could
share them. Please share them. Please share them. I
remember you telling me, well, you don't notice your body. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I understand that. But there was such a disconnect. So going at it from that direction, what I was hoping you would give me was a hard workout. And instead, you're having me make a cake and noticing when I'm hungry. And I remember I was thinking about this morning. You had me do an exercise, I think the first time, and I may butcher this, but like things that you want in your life, like you just had me like mind map it really fast and pick my top 5. And I said, one of my favorite things is to have good food around a table with people I love and great conversation. And you zeroed in on that. You said, but you don't pay attention to your body. You don't, like, there was a disconnect in what I loved. It was felt the most like me, you know, and how I was treating my body and thinking about my body. So I think initially when you first were like, I was so used to going hard that when you said, I want you to like, notice you're hungry. I'm like, oh, come on. What is this going to do? That's what I thought. Okay, I did. Because it wasn't hard, but it was hard because I wasn't used to it. It was unfamiliar.
Oh my gosh, you bring up such a great point. Is also, I did forget that I asked you to bake a cake. Uh,
We had a whole
Amy's
conversation about the cake. Like, what if I don't want to eat it all? You're not going to eat it all. Just eat one piece, throw it away. Like, it's the whole thing.
and then it was like, what do you mean you want me to throw away a cake? I'm going to make a cake and I'm going to throw it away. And it, like, Amy loves her family and is such a great baker. And there was this conflict of athlete, but I want to lose weight and I can't make my body do what I want to do. And even the pressure language of I can't make my body do what I want to do.
Right.
And initially it was, yeah, let's talk about mindset. But you also came with a weight loss goal. And could you imagine, for the people who are listening, that your coach goes, I'd like you to make a cake and I'd like you to eat it. And I want you to enjoy it. And it came down to the story
Right.
level. So let's fast forward a bit. We worked together for a year. You had injuries upon injuries that were a gift to me because they slowed you down.
Yeah. And also, when we met, I was finishing grad school, publishing a book, and getting ready to go on a 350-mile bike trip. Like, I was doing all of that and parenting hard children. I needed, so yeah, cake sounded like a really low hanging fruit.
And how hard was it though?
Hard. It was hard.
It was hard.
I think I remember you and I having a conversation because you asked me about my inner critic. And I thought, well, I don't sit around and go, oh, you're dumb, you're this, you're that. But I have a definite, I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, judging, like, should you eat that? Should you not? It was like a radio station that was just on the background that I hadn't really paid attention to. And so then I started noticing all the moral value I put on food. That was like mind blowing to me. The more, and I have one of my Stacy isms is, you have to make food fun. How? Like, what is that? So yeah,
that was that you bring that up. We have a current client that I am confident it's in the last 2-3 weeks that I'm like, let's make food fun, because you're not the only one that previously had a moral attachment to either I'm using food as a goal, as an emotional self, or as a way to punish and sabotage myself because I'm too afraid of who I'm becoming.
Right.
So yeah, I love the cakeism. But so you had some injuries. Slowing you down,
yes,
was one of my greatest challenges.
Yeah, mine too.
And Amy was in PT, like barely had use of her shoulder, and she's like, yeah, but I think I'm gonna go to Pilates. I'm not gonna use them. See, and do you see the similarities? Can you see? Yeah. What would you like to add?
We always say, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so when you have a high pain tolerance and you hang your hat on that, well, then I'm just going to do things that require a lot of pain, because that separates me from other people, right? Not everybody can run multiple half marathons, go to Pilates while their shoulder's out of place, and like all that other kind of stuff. The other thing is, how do people view, which is a story, right? How do people view hard, right? It's a very broad term, like you said, and you came into it and go, this is not hard. Well, okay, well, let's step back. Let's look at that for a second. It's not painful. It's not high skill necessarily, right? It's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. And I've never done it before, right? So it's more awkward than it is hard in the effort level sense of things, right? And so you sit back and go, okay, well, what does actually baking a cake and eating it have to do with knowing when you're hungry or paying attention to your body's signals? It's a pattern interrupt, right? If one of your favorite things is sharing food with people, but you don't even know what food means to you, how are you going to share it with other people in a meaningful way, right? Other than just being a provider, which of course you are, because you stepped in the gap for multiple, difficult children. And, you've got this thing, like you said, I wrote a book, I went across the country on a bike, and all that kind of stuff. and you're the perfect example. I would even say a higher level example, not to mention you haven't even gotten into, that was just what you were doing at that time, not to mention like everything that you had done and have done since, right?
Right.
High level example of the working woman, right? It's
Right.
the terminology we use, the working woman, and we don't necessarily mean working in a job. We mean working to build something or working toward just being a driven individual. Most people don't know what they're building toward; they're just doing. And that also includes being a busy mom. That also includes being an entrepreneur. That also includes being the best wife you know how to be, and best, best. I want to say relative, the best family member, the best provider that you know how to be. The reason I bring that up is people might not be able to relate to writing 365 miles and writing a book. They can relate to what does food being fun have to do with anything?
Right.
Right? All I do is cook dinner and then make some desserts every once in a while for special events, right? None of that is fun to me because most of the time I'm trying to eat less so that I can lose weight or whatever their goal is. And so when you have that pattern interrupt, which is a lot of what we do in the mindset side of things, is a pattern interrupt. It's like, oh, I've never thought about it like that before. We hear that a lot. Well, that's because you couldn't. You didn't have the combination of words. You were so stuck on your combination of words with a white knuckle grip and breath trapped in your chest that you didn't understand that there could be a different combination of words. Mm-hmm. And from that, a different mental picture. So anyway.
Amy, since he brings that up, and you have Stacyisms, which are so fun because I forget, right? I can remember a few things that you were unpleased.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to hear because I was like, I'm going to be the best client ever.
Yeah, she wanted to win the client game. Like, she was going to be the most compliant, best client ever. And then I'm like, Amy, we're going to take the scale away. Mm-hmm. You don't get a scale.
Right.
What is there a Stacyism for that?
I think not for that necessarily, but one of the things you said to me that made me mad, I have to admit, and I was like, you said, how are you contributing to your own chaos? And now this was you didn't do that, like, that was an archaic level relationship. This was a little bit further down, but
we started with frosting. We built.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I don't, because I just have a chaotic life because of my kids and all the things. But it just struck me like I've thought about that question probably weekly since we had that conversation, because the scale was contributing to the chaos. Now, I was, like Justin said, I was seeing it as a tool. This was my tool. I wasn't, like I said, looking at another way to look at it. I wasn't looking at with curiosity. I was rigid. And you kept telling me, you're black and white. You need to go to the middle. And I don't like the middle. I don't want the middle. And I think part of that is having a lot of trauma kids in our house. It's hard to go in the middle. But that really looking at our scale, not having a scale, looking at myself in the mirror, and you had me think, first of all, you had me thank my body. And that was kind of easy. Like, my body's had 3 kids and it's done all these things. And then you had me apologize to my body. And that was really challenging to me because, like you said, it was just like, it was the hammer. It was the tool over here. It wasn't me. It wasn't a part of me in some weird way. And I had already done like therapy work and spiritual work. And I felt like my mind and soul and all that but I wasn't integrated. I wasn't listening to my body, and I was using her as a tool to go harder every time. So you kind of helped me look back and go, how are you contributing to this chaos? And my eyes were really open to, when things are hard, I go harder as opposed to doing less. Like, that was foreign to me, that I would, if I was injured, that I wouldn't go to Pilates. I mean, it sounds silly, but it was so foreign. And I think the piece about my appendix rupturing was just a story to me that wasn't, you had to say several times to me, Amy, you almost died because you ignored your body. And it was just a story to me. It was like a story that was out here. And once I started like integrating that and looking at that with not like judgment, but curiosity and compassion for younger Amy, and compassion for Amy that was doing all the other things to keep her family afloat, that kind of was a softening and a turning point for me. You also said to me, you don't even see the easy, you always take the hard path. You can't even, because I was like, why can't I make the cake or like you asked me to take a nap and I circled my bed for 45 minutes and then laid down for like 5 seconds. Like I can't. Why? It's dumb. I can ride 350 miles, but I can't lay down for 10 minutes. It made no sense to me. And you said to me, you don't even see the easy path, the more gentle path. Because easy immediately I felt like was lazy, the words that we put around. So it's almost like I was colorblind and I can't see certain colors. I couldn't even see it. And that, because I was kind of judging myself that I couldn't take a nap or it was hard to make cake.
Because you should be able to win the nap game, Amy.
I should. But I want to win the game. I want gold stickers. So that was another thing stickers. You said to me, like,
stickers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even see. So it's not my, once again, that compassion and curiosity. It was not my fault that I didn't see the easy path, the gentler path. I just had not been ever, it wasn't a wavelength my brain was on, I guess, for lack of a better word. Does that make sense?
I want to double click on something that you said though for a second. Right before you talked about, the difficulty of taking a nap. You had done a lot of work before, right? You have done the spiritual work, which is part of what your practice is now, right? A lot of what you help other people with, therapy, physical work, right? Like whether that's body work or like going and setting big physical goals, like performance goals and stuff like that, which we're going to term, silos of healing, right? There's different silos of those. And a lot of people have this Frankenstein put together type of thing, right? Where they go and they do their spiritual work and it's in this silo. It's in this bucket over here. Well, how does that bucket actually make it to the kitchen making breakfast for difficult children, right? How does that silo actually make it to having a conversation about finances with my spouse, right? How does that actually make it into the reason why you're doing it in the first place? And so what I tend to see, the more we get into this mindset side of things and that space, right? Which what we do really well is bridge the space between the people who talk very ethereal and this is the things that we need to pay attention to versus when you're having a conversation in the moment and something's about to come out of your mouth that you wish you could take back. Where's the pause there, or how do you adjust your words? Because that's where the rubber meets the road is the words. First in your head or on a piece of paper, how do we slow those stories down before it actually something gets said that wasn't necessary or that you really didn't want to say, but it bubbled up because of something else that it scratched an itch that was still an ouchie, right? And so I'll go to saying we have these different silos, right? People have different types of work, whether it's shadow work, spiritual work, therapy, trauma-informed yoga, what's the kettlebell type work, somatic type stuff, right? Like there's a bunch of stuff, right? And it all has uses. My question is, Amy, where did you come to start to, because you use the perfect word, align, right? You were misaligned with how you were practicing things outside of, I'm going to call real life, right? You were siloing your work and having a difficulty bringing it into, first of all, how you saw your body, but I'm sure that relayed into how you saw other aspects of your life, right? The foods you eat, the conversations you have, so on and so forth. How did you start to align those things better to where you could get this result that Stacy helped to facilitate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the term silo, the silos of healing, because that's what they are. They're all so separate and they weren't, like you said, aligned. I think it started with Stacy giving me permission. Number one, she allowed me to, not that she gave me permission, but I gave my mind permission to look at all these areas together. But also, I think that radio station that plays in the back of my head, I just started noticing all the ways I was thinking about my body and my exercise routine and all of the aspects of my life and how they really were not siloed, they were interconnected. So we did the I am statements, and we did those for quite a while. And once again, I thought, what's this going to do? But when you say those things to yourself in a mirror, it helps. And then I started, like when you're looking for a car and you want a certain car, then you see them everywhere. It's kind of like that. It starts like sticking, like, oh, in this area over here, I'm noticing mindset things that were just part of the background music, that now I'm hearing it. And it started really slow. It started with Stacy, me verbally vomiting on her and her going, okay, take a pause here. Listen to what you just said. And once I started noticing, that was the beginning for me. And I cannot stress enough that I did not realize that I was not having compassion for who I am. I guess I thought, well, you're taking care of your body because you're fit or whatever, or I was given permission, or I was made aware that all of me needed to be integrated and all of me needed to have compassion. And I had permission. I think one of my I am statements was something like, I can make my own delight a priority. And I am enough just like I am. And I am a good mom. And I am these things. And that compassion piece for myself, because if you think about the story that I told, there was not a piece of compassion there. And not that my parents were mean, they weren't, but like there was an expectation that there's no way I could have met. And so my whole life has been, let's meet expectations, let's make them higher, let's try to meet the expectations that I'm placing on myself to prove that I have it together and that I'm worthy or whatever. So understanding how all those fit together with the I am statements, and Stacy just very, like I said, I thought it was going to be a prescription of weights and running or whatever, and don't eat this. And then we didn't even start with any of that. And she didn't tell me what to eat for a really long time. And that kind of gave me permission because I implicitly trusted her. If she said it was okay to eat a piece of cake, it was hard, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust the process with her. It allowed me to kind of step back and see a bigger picture.
Amy, I want to say thank you to you. And here's why. Most people, thank you, and you're more steadfast than you know. Most people, when they got that direction, they came in for a physical goal, they came in for a nutrition change, they came in for a whatever, right? Something that has to do with their physical aspect. And they got told what you got told from Stacy. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. We're not even going to look at your nutrition necessarily right now. We're going to talk about hunger, or we're going to talk about I ams, like whatever the thing is. Most people, if they gave it a month or two, would have left because it doesn't look like they think it's supposed to look. And if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got, right? You want something different, do something different. Mm-hmm. And so the point there that I'm highlighting is you said it. I implicitly trusted her for whatever that reason was. Right? We're thankful because you're here. We're having this conversation now, and you won the client game, by the way. We'll send her stickers, rocks, whatever, candles. That to have that amount of trust and to go, I don't understand what I'm looking at here, but I believe that I have some type of faith in it that it's going to change me somehow, right? I'm already feeling better to some degree, whether that comes from weight or not. But a lot of people get so stuck in what is a transformation supposed to look like. And if it doesn't look like a training plan, macros, supplementation, and a scale weight and pictures every week, then it must not be right. And I'm not saying those things are wrong. I'm not drawing a dichotomy. I'm saying there are multiple aspects to getting someone a transformation. I don't have the definition of that right off the top of my head, but I'm sure if you look it up, it doesn't say the person weighs less.
Right.
And if you go back and look at what you were raised with and that expectation, well, that church that you guys were a part of, your parents were doing the best they could.
Right.
They got the definition of a spell is a word or words of great influence. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they got spells put on them of this is what needs to go out on. If she's not working hard enough, then it must be a her thing, because he provides everything that he needs and everything that y'all need, and you don't need any human interaction here. You just need divine interaction. Right. And that should be enough, right? It's probably put some shoulds in there, put some soft talk in there, some things we talk about in mindset, but the spells are so powerful on your parents that transferred over to you. And now you're here going, well, I just must not be doing enough. So let me do more. Right. And then even when you left that environment, that wiring is still laying that, like you still got those same tracks running in your brain, and that wiring just goes straight into the next thing, which came down to Amy's body, Amy raising kids, Amy being a great wife, right? Like, well, I just must not be doing enough. So why pay attention to me? I need to be doing more.
Right.
Right. So I'm trying to bridge that gap between Stacy gave you new spells. She gave you I ams, and you looked at them and you practiced them in a way. Everybody's going to have a little bit different, right? Some people might write them down. Some people might record them and then listen to themselves speak. Some people might look at them in the mirror. Whatever the flavor is, she gave you new spells. And so once those new spells started to attach, started to take hold because you made them, right? They were part of what you wanted and you practiced them. Then you're like, oh, well, I guess I am enough. I guess I am a good mom, right?
I guess I'm going to start looking for evidence that makes that true because I said I was. So then your brain's like, well, that must be accurate. Mm-hmm. And here's where I want to, there's more to Amy's story, and we will have her back many times.
Oh, there's going to be an Amy part 10.
Amy part infinity is, without getting into it, there's more pieces of Amy's story that involved, she didn't get to grieve her sister and get to grieve the childhood that she didn't have. Mm-hmm. And so when Amy came to me, not only did we have similar stories of adoption and really challenging children and survival, and how does her and her husband have been married, and they're like the cutest thing forever, and like he's so fun. I didn't get to work with him, but he's so fun. He makes me laugh. That when you look at all these stories compacted over and over and over again, I love that you say you trusted me inherently, mm-hmm. but really, Amy, you trusted you inherently. And I just provided the space for you to trust you. And so here we are over a year later. Tell us what life looks like now that I'm not a part of your every week, other than it's sad and we don't get to tell great stories.
Hey, we're going to be in the same spaces though.
Oh, you put Amy and I in the same room. Mm-hmm.
Be a lot of strength like that, lick it out of people's face.
Amy, look, tangent on purpose.
Yeah.
Amy isn't afraid to say hard things. I don't believe Amy enjoys making people mad as much as I love people, like pushing buttons, especially in religious contexts, to challenge previous narratives. I mean, you have to remember, we've got an inherently all Jewish girl who raised in laws and knows them well, put into a Christian church. And so when you get into spiritual dogma, Amy and I can have so much fun when we get to play, what do I want to call it? Like spiritual swords.
I was going to say spiritual Jeopardy.
Spiritual Jeopardy.
Yeah.
And she's so educated. Like so there's not very many people that I get to play with on a playground that knows more than I do from a context with the same heart of, hey, this is hurting people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trauma here. And we both realize we can't save people from that trauma, but we can impact the story they tell themselves about what they believe isn't based on how they were raised or what somebody in authority put on them or over them. Mm-hmm. But
so bring us back to where we are now.
Where we are now is that, what does life look for you now? A year after, we don't meet weekly, right? We don't even talk that much. What have you kept? What have you learned? So what have you kept? What have you learned? And how does it impact what you do in your work? Because I really want to hear, I want people to hear what you do and the power of the women you work with, the moms that you mentor and coach, and what you're currently writing.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of questions. So I will start.
Yeah. I gave them to you as they came.
Okay. So first of all, let me just say, when you guys were talking, we were talking about the cake. And how hard that was for me. It hadn't even occurred to me, but I just returned from Seattle with my oldest son and daughter-in-law. And my daughter-in-law and I went to Pike's Place Market and went on a chef's tour of all the foods in the market. And it just occurred to me as I was sitting here, I didn't give one thought about what I ate. I enjoyed it. We had a great time. We got to try all these little foods. I didn't have, and like, it didn't even occur to me until we started talking about the cake again that it was not an issue for me. So I will say my body is lighter than when we started, but that's not that was the biggest deal. It's the smallest deal because my mind is lighter and I'm noticing those patterns has just freed me up to be more of who I am. Um, and when I work with women, I work with moms of kids with that have trauma, adopted, foster kids. They often come to me like I came to you with a goal, like how do we control this behavior? We end up talking about who are you? And I think a lot of times we lose ourselves in our roles. And I think I lost myself in the role of being this good at everything and overachieving. And also, I had an idea of the role of my body. And so that pressure isn't there anymore. I recently, it's hot. I know you guys live in Texas. I live in Michigan, but it's hot right now. I was like, I can go easy. I just went for a shorter walk today. And like, I didn't like blame myself for any of that. So all of that went away. And I think that what I bring to the things you said to me were find the middle way. It doesn't have to be all this or all that. And then the question of how you contributing to your own heart or chaos, I will think about that when I'm starting to get into what I call my overs, overdoing, overthinking, over educating, over exercising. Like my overs march in when I'm feeling less than. And so I've learned to recognize that's a time I need to step back and go, okay, the overs are coming. Why?
The overs are
The
coming.
British,
The
the British are
British
coming.
are coming.
That's
Yeah.
hey, that's beautiful terminology, Amy. We're gonna steal that
We're
one.
gonna steal it,
The
the
I
overs
call
are
my
coming.
overs. So many people have different overs, right? But I've learned to step back and notice in my body the feeling I get when the overs come marching in, and I'm able to step back. And I couldn't even feel that before. I just went into overdrive. So that has made, like, the fact that I went on a chef's tour and ate all kinds of yummy food and didn't give it one bit of thought at all. Um, I'm not saying I never struggle. I'm not saying there aren't times when I feel kind of yucky in my body, but then I'll go, wait a minute, it has nothing to do with your weight. It has either you're not sleeping, you're not drinking water. I can look at I can look at her with more compassion than I had before. So that's that answer. As far as the work I do, well, I am an author. I've co-wrote a book called The Other Side of Special. It is navigating messy emotions as a special needs mom, and it has 3 different authors with different perspectives on the emotions we handle, like guilt or anger or grief. But you get my unique perspective as a mom of kids with invisible disabilities, which our kids come from trauma. They look typical, but they don't act typical. So that's some of the work I do. But as I've mentored moms with kids of challenging behavior, what I'm really drawn to is then the stuff I write is on Substack. I write on Substack under Amy J. Brown. It's life-giving practices for the overwhelmed life. Because I think people come into, especially from a Christian space, of I should be doing this, just like I was with exercise. I should be praying more. I should be all the things. And I'm helping these women find spiritual practices that are non-traditional, accessible to their life. Like the spiritual practice of, I just wrote about spiritual practice of going to physical therapy, right? Or finding what you love. I feel like just like me, who came from trauma, these women have a lot of trauma and they just are so like black and white. And I'm trying to help them find the middle way, as you did with me, of who are you, who God made you to be, is very unique. And you can have, I have a little post-it note that says, make a home for flourishing. How can you flourish even in the midst of really hard life circumstances? And then the other work I do is spiritual direction, which a lot of people don't know what that is. It sounds like I'm directing you to be spiritual, but that's really not what it is. Spiritual direction is just a compassionate co-listener to find the divine, the sacred in your everyday life. So what that looks like is when people come to me with religious trauma, with these ideas of all the things they should be doing, we meet and I very gently just listen and ask, where's the invitation here? Where do you see God in this? And a lot of times people will come to me saying, I haven't been to church because, well, we're not welcome anymore because of the way my kids are, or I haven't read my Bible because I'm mad at God that this happened. But I'll say, well, did you notice that your face lit up when you were outside walking? And I really believe that whether the God language is uncomfortable or not, which I get, we're all created in a divine presence. And that the more that we know ourselves, the more that we can see that sacredness in our life. And that's part of bringing the whole person together. So between the spiritual direction that I do and the mentoring and the writing, I'm really, I think, hitting a part of this population of moms of kids with invisible, invisible challenges in a different way. I'm not just saying, here's a behavior plan, because I don't want to do that because it didn't work. So it's kind of what you do in some ways, but in a different vein.
That's why I wanted you to share it, is I get into sharing more of my story again. Like, and that is the healing silo, where there are things that about my story that didn't have the right perspective on it, that I can now see with a different lens, that I can tell the story more completely,
Right.
like not with the lens of pain in it. And the longer you do this work, you get to see where your story isn't straight and that you're still in process. And so I believe we have time. Amy, do you want to play a game with us?
Okay. Is it going to be hard? Am I going to win?
You're going to win. I also, since you gave us the gift of the overs are coming, like the British are coming. I'd like to should detox Amy.
Okay.
Because then she can steal it and use it.
Everybody can steal it, yeah.
Well, everybody can steal it. But since the work is so similar, and I heard in the people that she works with, I should. Amy, this is a game changer. So we're going to play it with you. Okay. I will send you a prize. And my ask is that you take it and that you implement it and watch the freedom that comes from this word game with the women that you work with. Maestro, cue it up.
So you're going to invite her to the game, and then you're just going to
you're
just going to take your ball and go over to the corner, huh? Okay.
There's some things you're better at, and I'm not going to pretend you're not.
Amy, do you have a pen and a piece of paper there?
Yeah, I do.
Perfect. So what we're going to start with is a should statement for you. So right now, when you think of the beginning of the sentence, I should blank, finish that sentence for what's applicable to you right now, and write that down.
Okay.
All right. Read that out loud for us.
I should sleep better.
Perfect. Describe the feeling from reading that out loud.
I would say that when I read it, my first thought was, I need to sleep better. And then my first thought was, well, your body's going to do what it's going to do. So I don't feel guilt about it, but I shouldn't use the word should.
Okay. In one word, what's the emotion attached to it?
That I'm not doing enough.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Where do you feel that at in your body?
Chest.
Mm-hmm. 1's low, 10's high. What number is it?
Probably like a 3.
8?
3.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. So I should sleep more. Okay. We're going to change one word. Okay. Scratch out should.
Okay.
And write the word could.
Yeah.
And then reread it.
I could sleep more. Sleep better. I could sleep better or sleep more.
I could sleep better. Okay. What's the difference?
It feels different in your body immediately. It takes away the pressure of I'm not doing enough to, it's a possibility I would sleep better. It's not something I have to work really hard to do.
Perfect. So we made one word shift.
Yep.
Okay. And not only have we opened up possibility in the way, I mean, you even your inflection was different when you said it, right? Mm-hmm. But we've also taken off some of that physical pressure that you felt in the chest, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. Scratch out the word could, put in the word can.
Mm-hmm. All right. I can sleep better.
Okay. What's that feel like?
That feels very empowering.
Can you?
Can I sleep better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you read it that way, does your mind start to try to find ways that you can?
I think it's more of a permission that this is not a grade. You know what I mean? Like, I can sleep better. There's some nights I sleep great, some nights I don't. So I would say it feels lighter because it feels like a permission not to judge it.
Perfect. So we've gone from pressure and obligation, possibility to permission, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And here's the last piece. Same sentence. So I can sleep better because fill in the blank. So you add the because. It does not matter what it is. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be whatever you want it to be. I can sleep better because.
Okay.
Now read that full sentence for us.
It was I can sleep better. Is that what you said? I can sleep better because my body needs rest.
I can sleep better because my body needs rest. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Now, what's the difference between that and I should sleep better?
Well, the first I should is putting pressure on me to perform with the magical 8 hours, and why is it not happening? And that is my body's going to tell me what she needs because I can finally listen to her, and I need to remember that.
Perfect. All right answers. And I give you a little bit of give you a little bit of reasoning there. The because makes no difference. You could have said, it doesn't matter what those words are. You could have said because the sky is blue, and it would have been the right answer. And here's why. Statistically, it's 30% more likely that you're going to go and sleep better because you put something as a reason to do it. Okay? It does not matter what that reason is. And that's why that piece of the language game, that piece of I, going from I should to I could to I can plus because, is more significant, and the rubber meets the road. Now Amy can go and do something with it, right? And then if we were going to take this a step further, which is slightly is like bonus level, is set something that we're going to do. Okay, so it could be like, hey, so what time is that thing that you're going to go to bed, right? What are you going to do right before you go to bed? That's more of the behavior side of things. But the piece that I wanted to highlight was it doesn't matter, and this is for you, this is for everybody who wants to use that. It doesn't matter what the because is. The because is whatever you say it is, and you're more likely to go and do it just because you put it down.
Right.
So, you won the prize, Amy.
Wait, was that helpful?
Yeah, it is helpful.
Was it fun?
It was fun. And I have to say that when he said should, it took me a minute to think of something. And that just goes to show you how much work I've done on being a should person.
Well, I love
Absolutely.
it. And I am so thankful that we had you today. We will have you again. And I can't wait till we are in the same place speaking on the same thing and getting to do more of this. We'll make sure that everybody has how to get a hold of Amy. Mm-hmm. It's at Amy J. Brown on Instagram, right? And it's amyjbrown.com.
Well, my website is amyjbrown.com, which is currently down right now. Hopefully that'll be up. But and on Substack you can find me at Amy J. Brown. Unfortunately, because Amy is a common name on Instagram, I'm Amy J. Brown _writer, just because, well, Amy Brown's a common name. There's more than one of me.
There is not more than one of you. There might be usernames, but there is not more than one of you. So I'm so thankful for all that we've gotten to do, and that you got to show the beginning of your story, where it's still going, and for the work that you do. And I just adore you. I'm so thankful.
Well, love you too, Stacy, and thank you so much for having me. It's been
fun. We appreciate you, Amy. And I wanted to add that to anybody who related to Amy's story, to anybody who feels like they are a person who could work with Amy, as far as, being a working mother with difficult children, or even if she's just a busy woman, like there's not specific qualifications necessarily. And this is an invitation for you as well, Amy. We're running a free online workshop on July the 16th, for working women. We call it the Working Woman's Mindset Workshop, right? And we're going to teach, so that language game was a teaser, right? We're going to teach more language games. We're going to talk about how words and breath affect the story that you tell yourself, and do some rubber meets the road tactics. And that way you can add it to your practice, Amy, should you choose. And of course, when people want to get in contact with you, which we'll leave in the show notes, they'll be able to take what we teach there and combine it with your spiritual lens. And it's just, it doesn't have to be siloed. It won't be siloed. It will be in lockstep, because we have that same train of thought. So, anyway, thank you so much, Amy, again. And we can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you.